Hello, Lucas and Leia. Hi, it's Daddy, and I'm trying something new today. I'm gonna read you a bedtime story from this book called Fairy Tales and Fables. I hope you like it. So let me pick a story for you, okay? Are you ready to listen? Tonight, I'm gonna read you a bedtime story called The Little Red Riding Hood. The Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there lived a little girl who had a pretty red cape and a bright red hood. See? That's her, the Little Red Riding Hood. She always wore her red hooded cape, and that is why she was called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother packed a basket with cakes and fruit. She said to the Little Red Riding Hood, "This is the gift for you to take to your grandmother. She is not well, and she will enjoy some nice cake and fruit." So Little Red Riding Hood tied on her red cape and hood and set out for her grandmother's house. As she was going through the woods, she met a big wolf. The wolf said to her in a gruff voice, "Good morning, little girl," he said. "Where are you going with a nice basket of cake and fruit?" "I'm going to visit my grandmother." "Well, well," said the wolf politely, "I'm going to visit your grandmother too." The crafty old wolf knew where grandmother lived, and so, while Little Red Riding Hood stopped along the way to pick bright flowers and watch butterflies flitting among the trees, the wicked wolf arrived at grandmother's house. Long before she got there, he peeked in through the window. He saw grandmother sitting in her rocking chair. She was rocking back and forth like that, knitting a sweater. But grandmother saw the wolf too. She jumped out of the chair, slipped into her clothes closet, and quickly locked the door behind her. The wolf came into the house. He tried to open the closet door but could not. Then he spied grandmother's nightcap and shawl hanging on a peg. "Aha," he said. "I will put on grandmother's nightcap and shawl and get into bed. Little Red Riding Hood will think I am her grandmother." Pretty soon, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. "Who's there?" said the wolf, pretending to be grandmother. "It is I, grandmother," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Come in, my dear," said the wolf in his most gentle voice. He drew the covers up around his chin, like that. "Oh, grandmother," cried Little Red Riding Hood, standing beside the bed. "What big bright eyes you have!" "The better to see you with, my dear," replied the wolf softly. Little Red Riding Hood came closer. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have!" "The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf, still more softly. Little Red Riding Hood leaned over the bed. "And grandmother, what big teeth you have!" she whispered. "The better to eat you with," cried the wolf, and he pushed back the covers and sprang out of the bed. Then Little Red Riding Hood saw that it was the wolf pretending to be her grandmother. She screamed with all her might. At that moment, a woodsman was passing by. He heard Little Red Riding Hood's screams and broke into the house just in time to save her from the wolf. But the wolf slipped past the woodsman and rushed off into the trees. "Never mind," said the woodsman, "I'll catch him," and he ran into the woods after the wolf. Then grandmother came out of the closet where she had been hiding, and she made a delicious lunch of milk, cake, and fruit for Little Red Riding Hood and herself. They had just sat down to eat when the woodsman came back. "The wolf will never bother you again," he said. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother thanked the woodsman and asked him to stay for lunch. He did so gladly, for he was very hungry. Afterward, he walked with Little Red Riding Hood through the woods to her mother's house, where she lived happily for many years. But she never met another wolf. And that's the end of the story of the Little Red Riding Hood. Was that a good story? I thought so too. Well, I love you, Lucas, and I love you, Leia. Goodbye. Good night.